Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Whale Nerds podcast. This is episode number 110. My name is Slater, and I'm here with Adam and Caitlin.
What's up?
Hello.
It just flows.
It just flows right off the tongue, man.
I don't know how else I could do it.
I mean, your mic sounds pretty nice.
Well, I know. That's why it flows. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know. You got like that chocolatey smooth voice going on there. I don't know.
If I slowly like start fading away from the mic, it's because my arm's getting tired because I don't have a mic stand.
Not yet. Hopefully by 1:11.
Tomorrow. It's in Oakland. It arrived in Oakland an hour ago. So
well, there you go.
So Caitlin already has a pretty good setup because she was doing the audio for California seasons. But Slater and I are getting new setups, and my mic stand came in like way before it was supposed to. And all my other equipment was like delayed. And then Slater is kind of like the opposite. Slater got his mic and his setup first without the mic stand. So we essentially have one full complete setup, but just in two different locations. But I'm looking. It says tonight by 9 p.m. everything should be good. I'm going to dial it all in. So next episode, I'm going to sound like Slater. Maybe.
I want to know though, because I swear you guys got to let us know in the comments or somewhere. I don't even got to DM me or what, and let us know if we sound. It's not going to make me sound better as a person. I can only sound so good, you know what I'm saying? But I want to know if we sound cleaner, if there's less background noise or, whatever it is. So
I think you definitely sound better. You sound more professional for sure.
And we'll see if how Zoom also records the audio too. So.
Yeah, we have to figure that out.
So
there has to be a way to get it.
Remember when we all used to, speaking of your arm getting tired, remember when we all used to sit on your couch and hold the mics?
I was going to go set this up on the couch and just like do the lean back podcast. That's more my vibe. And 20 minutes ago, I was falling asleep. So
remember there's always that one mic that was like super fidgety and like if you touched it at all.
I think it was the mic cord.
It's the cord, the old school USB, the original USB cord.
If you like breathed on it, it would disconnect.
If Lacey walked by, it would shut off.
We also had all 3 or 4 mics
in
plugged into
laptop.
one little plugged into one USB dongle into a laptop on the floor in Caitlin's room and on Caitlin's little living room floor.
Oh man, those were the days.
Those were the days. I remember just like looking up at your posters on the wall. Oh, we were.
I know. I actually didn't bring any
room.
Of them with me down here.
Really? What?
I gotta get you a print.
I literally just realized right now I have like one wall tapestry and I didn't bring anything else.
Wow, that's boring. Did you have like a Mola Mola? I feel like I saw like a Mola Mola like poster or something.
I think a painting from Sammy maybe.
Oh, okay, maybe.
Yeah, and then I had some other like I had a turtle poster.
You had the whales of the world for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that somewhere too. The one from Margot's because remember we had all the prints and posters up at Margot's thing.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is when you move a lot, you don't. At least for me, like you don't know exactly where everything is. Like I just unpacked some boxes. And I'm like, I forgot I had this stuff.
Yeah.
Because you didn't.
I kind of don't want it.
You didn't need it. So when Margot and I moved home for like during COVID, it was like, why are we even going to unpack our utensils and our plates and like our parents had plates with the, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's like. It's kind of nice though, because when you go to move again, you're like everything's still kind of back. So it's
it's just moving. Like I was like, what is it? All this stuff in here, but then stuff like, oh, I didn't bring any art for the walls of my apartment.
Yeah,
I actually got tons of like prints in my thing. Could probably just go get like frames.
Can you make me a like gigantic wall size infinite object?
Whoa, yeah, that'd be sick.
I have a question, Caitlin.
What's up?
Do you still have the orchid I got you?
Yeah, dude. It's doing great.
Is it doing good?
Room. Yeah, it likes the light in the living room.
Oh, I was thinking you got it to her like before, but you got it when she just moved back.
Yeah,
for her birthday.
You know who's the queen of keeping orchids? Who I gave my orchid to when I moved is Debbie Ternulo. She's like the orchid queen. It's incredible. People that can get orchids to rebloom are like they do some sort of witchcraft. Amanda too in Hawaii, who I live with, she can get hers to rebloom. I'm like, what is this magic?
Dude,
I know Margot's pretty good at orchids on what's that show? Or on Animal Crossing, the game. Oh no. Yeah, orchids. Are orchids like no? What's the thing at like San Francisco Central Park? They
Huh?
have this like this. Oh, I'll look it up.
Roses? I don't know.
No. It's a type of you can like crossbreed them and stuff.
Dude, Slate, remember when I
Tulips.
I think they're
Never
probably
mind. Tulips.
tulips.
Yeah, they only.
But
Remember
those only bloom once and then
Yeah,
they
yeah,
die.
exactly. Yeah.
Slate, remember when I got this plant with you and Margot and it died instantly? It's still alive. It came back.
Oh wow.
Didn't
Yeah.
Margot rehab it for you?
No, she was going to, but I decided to do it myself. And it.
Nope.
You
When we
decided
stayed
to
at his
just
house,
Welcome to the
it.
Plants Nerd podcast.
Dude, I could do a whole plant nerd podcast.
so could Margot. I think she wants to start one.
Oh, maybe she and I should just do one. She should do one with her friends at that plant shop.
Could they should the plant that's smart for that business too? Actually, it'd be cool.
Yeah. Anyways, okay.
All right, off track.
Now that we're already off track, let's just
Yeah. Stay off track.
thank you to everybody. We want to start with that after talking about plants that supports us on Patreon, that came out on our trips in April, that listens to the podcast, that rates and reviews it anywhere where you listen to it. That helps other people find it if you leave a rating or a review. But also just word of mouth is a great way to share our work, and we always appreciate that. So thanks for sticking with us for over 3 years of doing this podcast and now doing trips. Very excited to continue to do it, and we wouldn't be able to unless you were listening. So thank you.
You better not stop listening.
Whoa.
Ever.
Don't threaten them.
Even if you have to step out of your car, you better keep it playing as you're walking to work. No, just kidding.
I actually also have a shout out to one of our listeners who came out on our trip, our first trip in October. Andrew, his Instagram is Anthro Andrew. I think it's Anthro_Andrew. He just got into CSU Long Beach to do his anthropology program, studying the kind of like the human dimensions of ecotourism. So
Nice.
congrats.
I remember he was doing something with that when we had him out.
Yeah, he was on the boat with me yesterday, and he got the email that he got
nice.
accepted. So he was very excited. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, so
remember
congrats to Andrew. And he also said thank you to the Whale Nerds for just, I don't know, just doing what we do. And then also that he had a really good time on the October trip, and he felt really inspired to continue to look for a grad program after seeing all of us together. So
Oh, awesome.
That's
Yeah.
awesome to hear.
Well, maybe we'll see him on the upcoming October trip.
yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we do have our blog with conservation topics going on there on our website. You can also find more information about our October trip in San Juan Islands on our website. You can also look at our merch on there, and on our YouTube channel you can watch video versions of all of our episodes. So if you want to see Adam holding up his houseplant, you can watch the video version of this episode.
Or
I
my
still
mind.
need to name it. I haven't named it yet.
I don't know.
Maybe one day.
I'm not into naming plants or like
Really?
cars. Or I named my one car in Maui, and that's the only vehicle I've ever named. I'm just not into
What was
it.
its name? It was badass.
It was Bernie.
Bernie.
I thought
No,
was
that was a
gangster.
Buick. No, the race car one that I just
Oh.
sold. No, that one didn't get named.
I was gonna say, like, did it burn people's ears when you
You
were
guys
driving
think
by?
that-
Did
No,
you-
like
Caitlin
Bernie
might drive
Sanders.
slow, but she drives
Yeah.
real fast.
Yeah, just ask Johnny.
Like,
When we drove home from Florida, he was like, dude, you're doing so like 90. And I was like, 85. And he's like, still.
let's say you need to get to killer whale sighting really fast, but you're like, I don't have a car. You don't call an Uber, you call Caitlin, because she could fly you there with that spoiler she had on that thing.
Yeah, she could. You'd be bumping too down the road with the stereo system in
With
the back.
Those huge speakers in the back seat. I was like embarrassed to like listen to music in that thing, because like the windows would be vibrating.
That's awesome.
People are
So
judging
cool.
me at 5 a.m. as I'm driving to Lahaina.
You're mobbing, man.
Anyways, yeah, sightings. When was the last time we didn't talk about sightings with Chase?
No,
I don't think,
I don't
so.
think
we
so.
didn't.
No, yeah, we did kind of, because I think we talked about the all day trips a little bit, I think.
Yeah,
Because he had one at
yeah.
same time, but
Yeah.
I can go with the sightings first. Since last week, we've had humpback whales in front of our harbor in Moss Landing basically every day. I think for the last probably I'd say like 10 days in a row for sure.
At least.
And then we have humpbacks there, but off and on, Monterey has had humpback whales pretty close to their harbor, about 1 or 2 miles out towards the point off of like Pacific Grove or Silomar. And more recently, I feel like in the last like 7 days, I don't know. We had some fin whale and blue whale sightings off and on. And then in the last few days, consistently, we've had fin whales and humpbacks. I mean, fin whales and blue whales and technically humpbacks a little ways offshore, about like 11 miles out, 10 miles out. So it's been pretty cool. And guess what? Caitlin doesn't even get to talk about sightings because we've been seeing the same exact thing.
No,
we're both on the water at the same time.
Except,
Caitlin's out of town.
Yep.
Dang. So never mind. Feels bad for Caitlin. Caitlin was out of town, went up to her parents' house to pick up some stuff for her new place in Monterey. And while she was out of town.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Oh, is there something else?
No, the one that you're gonna say. I just was slow to realize.
So I was way offshore. It was a really foggy morning, and I found an opening, and I just kept going that direction. And right before the opening, I had some scattered out Rizzo's dolphins, and we took a couple looks at them, and then I saw like the opening. So I was like, you know what, let's get like out past the fog and keep going where we have like clearings. And we ended up finding, I don't know, I would say like 5 humpbacks or something. It wasn't like crazy numbers, but other people were seeing humpbacks too to the south, but only in areas where they couldn't find fog. So it was like there was whales everywhere, but it was like the fog was really hindering the trip at that point. And so I'm out there. We had like really, really awesome humpback sightings or an encounter, or this pair of humpbacks. They kind of just cruised right past the boat really slowly. And it was like super glassy, calm, and slightly blue water. So it was a really good trip. And then Tim on the Goddess Fantasy came out at 9:30. So like an hour after I had already been out. And he was just 3 miles in front of the harbor when he spotted a basking shark. And so I was like already 13 miles away from that area. So I was like, shoot, like, I don't know if I should like run now because it's a super rare sighting, right? And so I didn't run because he goes, all right, I've had enough. And he like left it. And I was like, okay, well, by the time I get there, it could be like long gone. So then I started going to the north I was like, no one went up the north side of the canyon. So I was like, going to head that way and then turn in to go into my trip. Someone relocated the basking shark. So I just zoomed right over there, and they didn't even hold the basking shark for us, which sucked. So I was like kind of going to this area that I was in. And I like saw this little fin, like I don't know, but I want to say like almost 300, 400 yards away. I saw this little fin, and I was like, this is probably a mola. And then the second fin, like the tail fin came up out of the water, and I was like, this is it. So I went over there, and we ended up having a basking shark, and it was freaking epic. And
you had a really good encounter with it too. It was
I saw your Instagram story, and I was shopping for Mother's Day and birthday gifts at the store, and I was like, what? And then you FaceTimed me while I was in line at the checkout.
Okay, so my passengers were super awesome, and I was like, this is super rare. Like, we got some great looks at it, and then I was like, do you guys mind if I just like we stay out a little longer and we hold this for you, Kate? So Kate was like, I have to see a humpback because the fog like was messing up her trip. And so she finally got on humpbacks, and she's like, I have to be here for like at least another 20 minutes. Like, she's like, you don't have to hold it. But I was like, nah, I want to hold this and make sure you guys get a look. Cause she had Brian Fan on the boat, and like the CSU or UC, what is it?
UC Santa Cruz.
UC Santa Cruz on the like some school group was on her boat. And so they were like all going to be hyped up to see it.
Yeah. And Eric's never seen one either.
And Eric was like freaking out. Can you imagine his anxiety as like we have to watch these humpbacks. I hate all of a sudden you hate humpbacks because you're
like, these whales are stupid.
And so I was holding the whale for her, and I asked my people, and they were super cool, which I'm glad I ended up staying to hold the whale because we got like good looks at it. It was really just like circling it around. And something that was awesome is it was just must have been going right through schools of anchovies, because they would, right after it went through it, they would all like boil at the surface. And also a sea lion. So a sea lion was like swimming around right next to the basking shark, must have been feeding on the anchovies. and the basking shark is feeding on what the anchovies are feeding on. And so anyways, I'm waiting for Kate, and I'm so glad I did, because I was just stopped there and I was like, this shark is coming right at us. And then I was like, no, it's actually like right here. And I was like, it's going under my boat. And so we were just completely stopped, and it went right under the bow of my boat. So one of my passengers and I were able to like stand on the bow and both look down right at it. And we got really good looks at the basking shark's gills and just the whole body, and it was incredible. And then
So
I basically told her we could retire and call it a day.
Slater called me. He's like, I gotta go. This thing's coming right at me. And I'm like, okay, bye.
The
So cool.
One thing that was cool is that some of the captains on the water that have been out there for 30 years or so were saying that they've like haven't seen one in that amount of time, which I just got a comment on Facebook saying like they're not rare. We see them all the time when I'm salmon fishing.
Okay.
But Caitlin, I did respond. I said, okay, well, I said, when was the last time you went salmon fishing? And then I said, and he wrote me and goes, why are they not there anymore? And I was like, I just said they're rare. And so he goes, I said, some of the captains here, they seen very occasionally, which I don't know, but I was like, I've lived here 6 years and I haven't really heard of any. I've heard of like maybe a sighting or two, but who knows if it's actually true or not. Without any photos or anything, people think they see things all the time.
Yeah.
And then he goes, oh, well, I stand corrected because there were common. And I was like, okay, but when? Like in the 70s?
Yeah, the 70s, literally.
When were they common? Because they're not common now.
I think after that El Nino in the 80s, when the bottlenose dolphins started coming up and staying in Monterey, that's when like a lot of things shifted. Like the tuna fishery seems to have shifted. The like pilot whale sightings in Southern California shifted. Like, something changed after that El Nino event, and then they haven't really seen basking sharks.
I'd like to see them more.
Yeah, they're cool.
So cool.
I'm not mad at them. No, it was super cool. And so like, what was so great about it going past my boat like that is it really gave like the size perspective. Cause like, okay, I'm on a 20-foot boat.
Yeah.
And I would say it was at least 17 feet. Kate thought it was bigger, but I was like, it went by my boat that's 20 feet. And I kind of felt like it was a little smaller than me, but dang, the head is wide.
Yeah.
I would say it was at least 8 to 9 feet between dorsal fin and caudal fin.
Yeah.
Can it be the tail fin?
It can be the tail fin.
I want to call it the tail fin.
Call it the tail fin.
Call it whatever you want, mate.
Anyway.
So yeah, epic sighting. It's been off the charts. The weather has been pretty lame, to be honest. Well, it's been off and on lame, especially in the afternoon. But we've been getting really solid like trips. Like 3 hours of the trip is like usually really good right now in the mornings. Like, which is the trips are 3 to 4 hours anyway. So, like this morning, Caitlin and I went out and we jammed straight out and had blue whales. And it's funny, like the further we got, it actually ended up, well, by the time we got out there, it was really nice.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Well, I had a really good trip one day that you were not out on the water. Actually, I think 2 different days that you were not out on the water. I don't know. But one of the days. Me up?
Yeah, literally.
I am.
Trying to beat my trips? No,
she's Caitlin Taylor, bro.
One of the days we went out on the high spirits and we just went straight down to Monterey because they were like, oh yeah, there's a lot of whales down here. I think there had been like a big pulse with all those fallow ropes like the week before. And then they all gathered up off Point Pinos again. And there was like, I'm not kidding, 100 whales and like thousands of sea lions and well over 10,000 fallow ropes. Like it was
I remember
just
seeing that day.
I missed that day.
It was, I mean, the weather was not nice, but like it was so cool. And like we luckily had like a really hardy group of passengers. And so like, even though the weather wasn't very good, it was so crazy cool. Like,
dang, 100 whales in one area.
Yeah. Within like a 2-mile radius, there was 100 whales.
That's insane. I don't think I've never seen anything close to that. I've seen like 30.
It's happened a few times recently, not 100, but 6. Like we had 60 plus the other day for sure.
Yep.
But I remember that day because I was pissed because like I didn't think anyone was going, and then some people went. Were you on an all-day trip?
No, the next day
that's pushing it for you guys.
All-day trip.
Usually Kate doesn't like to go to the point that much. She doesn't have to,
well,
just because it's like,
she knew that it was good.
it was like the only game in town kind of thing.
Yeah, there was not very many whales between Moss Landing and Monterey that day. They all were like gathered outside of Point Pinos. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Were you here for the fin whale stuff on her boat?
Yeah, that was the day I drove.
Okay, and the friendly fin whales.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I don't know, the whole day with the phalaropes and everything, just seeing that many birds, like it was so cool because the phalaropes are like the same, almost the same size as an anchovy, right? Like when you think about how little they are, they're just a little bit bigger than an anchovy. And so telling the people that like the whales are eating something smaller than this bird, like I think it really helped give them a perspective of like what the heck is going on below the surface. Because you could see how small the bird was compared to the whale. And there were so many of them that you were like, this is like the anchovies look like this below the surface, but like times 10. And there was groups of like 10 to 12 whales coming up at once with like 500 sea lions in their own little group. And there was like, it was so cool.
Wow.
I just kept thinking like, that's what conservation success looks like. Like that's exactly what you want to see when you put all those laws in place, is a day like that. Yeah.
You see it all come together in one area, you can see the effect those laws have in rebounding wildlife populations. It's pretty crazy. I don't think I want to see that so bad. I would love to see that many whales in one area. Like that's crazy.
I like how Kate explained the like size of not the size of the phalarope, but the abundance of how many there were. She's like, there was sheets of phalaropes.
Yeah.
And then I said to her, I was like, well, like, what's the thread count? She's like, dang it, I don't know thread count, but like 120 to like 600 thread count. It's so funny.
I mean, they've been doing it off and on. I guess I've just maybe I wasn't paying good enough attention, or we didn't have enough phalaropes around whales.
That's the biggest amount I've seen for sure. Everybody's been talking about it.
Them flying right at the fluke prints too.
That's
like once the whales would dive, like they all gather at the
every
fluke
time.
Print. Yeah.
Did anybody film that? That's awesome.
I did. I have videos of phalaropes. Steve and I was like, oh my God, maybe we did actually see them lunge feed on krill. And I was yelling, oh, and Steve didn't even know why I was yelling, oh, but it was because the whale was lunging. And then he's like, I saw a bunch of red. So he noticed the krill because he's taller than I am. Wow. And it was like behind his swell. So he noticed the krill. And then, every time a whale kicked, whether it was even feeding or not, every time, even today, the blue whales were kicking at the surface, and we were looking at all the fluke prints, and phalaropes literally are getting spun around in the fluke of the, or in the fluke print of the blue whales.
There's so much insane. There's like so much plankton out there right now that when the whales kick, it all comes up to the surface and the birds are like, yay, and they just get in there and start pecking it.
So let's talk about that, right? Like this is supposed to, like La Nina weather patterns are supposed to continue through the summer, right? That's what's forecasted.
I don't know.
But I don't even really look at those anymore.
Really? Because
every year
that's
it's
what I've read.
El Nino and every year it's La Nina. Like they say that. I feel like it's,
but
I feel like that becomes a thing every year. I don't know why.
Like I just think this is going to be a really good year, because we've had, like, I can't even fathom the plankton that we've seen. Like we had 3 basking sharks. I didn't even talk about that in the podcast yet. So like we're getting these interesting sightings, and I think it's really. I mean, we've had a ton of phalaropes too, not nearly the same numbers, but we normally don't get as many phalaropes, and we've seen a lot this year.
Yeah, well, and it's been a pretty good salmon season too, which is also an indicator of like the low levels of the food chain are abundant, but. I mean, it's hard to say, like things just change so quickly even with the currents, like say that warm water pushes in from offshore and then that completely changes the game. So, but then the other day that I had, that was like really epic, and it was like twice in the same week. And I looked at Kate and was like, I can't have 2 top 10 days in the same week. Like that's illegal.
Top 10.
Yeah. I mean, that day with the whales, like, with the phalaropes, it's like a top 10 for Monterey. Cool. And then,
but what about yesterday?
I mean, yesterday's not top 10. Yesterday's not top 10, but it's close.
But if people hear
yesterday,
when they hear about yesterday and you say it's not top 10, people are going to be like, wow, Caitlin's a piece of turkey with sour cream.
Screw that, girl.
What do you mean? Yesterday, we literally had killer whales. We were watching blue whale. No, sorry. We were watching a humpback whale was peck slapping, which, by the way, I was 5 miles away, and I wasn't even going to go to that humpback. But while that whale was peck slapping, Kate goes, "Oh, there's a blue whale." Like, I didn't even have to lift my binoculars, so she was like, "It's pretty close." And I was like, "Cool, where are you at?" She's like, "00." And I was like, "Awesome, be there in a jiffy." And I was 5 miles away, and I was going, and then her humpback was still peck slapping.
It
and
pecked
she's
up
like,
for like 25 minutes.
She was like, "I'm gonna leave." So I was like, "Cool, I'll watch the peck slapper." So we literally traded off. The humpback peck slapped for us like 10 times, went on a dive, and then I sat there for like 5 minutes waiting for it to come back up. And then it was like a quarter of a mile away, still peck slapping behind me. And I was like, "Okay, well, I left him, went to the blue whales, watching blue whales with Kate. Out of nowhere, killer whales are like a quarter mile away from us, pop up. And so there's literally a blue whale up at the same time. And then I'm like literally looking at both. I'm like, I don't know where to go. I started freaking panicking because like, do you go to the killer whales? Like, and then so there's a couple blue whales. And as I'm leaving the killer whales, a fin whale pops up going the opposite way. So there's blue whale. Oh, and a humpback was with Tim Zolanak at the same time. Wow. So killer whales are at the surface. A humpback just fluked up. Blue whale is like on a regular breast sequence. And then a fin whale popped up at the same time. So there's 4 huge animals at the same time.
I quit, dude. I'm quitting right now.
So if that's not a top 10 day, then you're a piece.
Wow, dude. Well, here's my other top 10 day that happened
before
that. So we went out on an all-day trip, and Kate was like, "Oh, well, you can drive this one." And I was like, "Okay." And I was like, "What do you guys want to photograph?" And they were like, "Whatever. But if killer whales are around, great." And I was like, "Well, that's probably not going to happen." So I was kind of just searching around, and I kept wanting to go like where the Soquel and the Monterey Canyon meet, but then I kept second guessing myself. So if you like look at the GPS track line, it's like, I went that way. Oh, no. I'm going to go towards Monterey, because it was the day after we had that epic day with humpbacks. And the guys were on the radio that were fishing were like, "Yeah, there's still quite a few around. They're not gathered up like they were yesterday, but there's a lot of whales down here." And I was like, "Okay, maybe we should just go down there." And then I kept second guessing myself. And then finally another boat that was on an all day trip was like coming into the area from the south. And I was like, "You know what? Let's just turn a little bit more west and just keep going." And then Kate's like, "What is that?" And I was like, I can't really tell, because it was kind of hazy. And then it was some big spouts, and it was a couple fin whales. And so I was like, "Okay, let's go over here." And then we finally get over there and caught up to them and settled in. And then like 2 blue whales pop up in completely different directions while we're waiting for the fin whales. And so we're watching 3 fin whales and 2 blue whales. And then the more we keep looking in binoculars, there's more and more blue whales. So we put it out on the radio, and all the other boats start coming up. And so I was like, "Okay,
was this the first day of blue whales?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the day my impeller burned out. Right when I got to the blue, I got to the blue whale, and it went down, and I sat there, and then my impeller went out.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And so
I was like, now I remember this day, because it was
I was like, you were there, but me. You weren't there. Oh yeah, because that's why. Because I was there. Wait, you were there, weren't you? Oh wait.
I was like, I called you on the. Remember, I said go down a channel.
Yeah. Yes.
So that was fun.
So the other boats started to come. So I was like, okay, well, I can see more blue whales like up in the Soquel Canyon. So I just kept slowly putting along and looking at different blue whales the whole time. And we just kind of kept following up into the Soquel. And then we like pushed west and like kind of weaving through the salmon fishermen. And then there were Rizzo's dolphins, and it was beautiful. And then we kept going out further and further west, just kind of seeing where the end of it was, trying to find the end of it. Because there was like at least 10 or 15 blue whales and 4 or 5 fin whales. And all of a sudden, there was a group of blue whales and a group of fin whales, and they're both acting kind of funky. And then these fin whales just took off like at a high rate of speed. And we thought the Rizzos maybe were like harassing them. Yeah. So I was like, "Let's go." And like, we just followed them, and we were going like 10 knots, and we couldn't keep up with them.
Wow.
And the high spirits is not that fast. So like, I just kept following them, knowing they were going to slow down eventually. There were no Rizzos. It was 3 fin whales chasing each other, kind of like a little heat run. Yeah. And they were all young. They were all like under 60 feet long. And so they kind of turned and slowed down. So I stopped, and then they popped up right next to the boat. And I was like, "Oh, perfect." But then they started circling the boat, and I was like, "What is happening?" And they did 4 big passes around the boat, all together, like turned their bellies towards the boat when they made their turn, and like sort of drifted partway upside down the whole side of the boat, came up around the stern, and like made really close passes off the bow 3 different times.
Wow.
And they were so close to each other, they could have touched each other with their teeny tiny little peck fins. And
relative to their body size.
Yeah. And I just feel like they were like, that was a curious fin whale encounter. Like that's what a fin whale is capable of.
And that was the start of the like fin whale encounters for the next 3 days, I think, where there were actual like, you know, friendly encounters. I pulled up to, again, you guys found fin whales, like it might have been 1 or 2 days later.
I think Thursday, 2 days later.
Yeah, and you guys had the fin whales there, and you guys were just leaving, and it's funny, I was just headed up the south side of the canyon, and Joey on Sanctuary, I just pulled up, and it completely did a circle around his boat, and he was outside like running with his cell phone filming it.
Yeah.
And he was like, "This is so awesome." On the radio, he was pumped.
It was so cool.
And then the rest of that day, like every bit, I ended up leaving because there was a bunch of boats, but the rest of that day, all the big boats had a close pass or 2 with the fin whales.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It was
kind of weird.
Insane. Well, and then so after they passed us 4 times, they made like one more like half pass, and then sort of got interested in each other again. And then Rod on the Pacifica had come out to like join us. And there were 3 blue whales doing a similar thing. And they were like coming up really close to his boat, and they were all really close to each other. And a couple times they like rolled belly to belly towards each other. Wow. You could see like their peck fins and their tails. And so we just kept, all 6 whales kept going west, about like 500 yards apart from each other, but like on the same heading. And so like the Pacifica was watching the blue whales, and we were watching the fin whales, and then we traded. And like it was so cool to have like 2 courting groups of animals that were just like, it was definitely a social
you don't see that very often with those species.
So
I think fin whales really get overlooked. I've had a couple curious fin whale encounters, and I've never had a curious blue whale encounter. I think they are definitely more curious than the blue whales. Yeah, and they do some cool things. Like I've seen fin whales do some like weird, funky things. You know, whether they're courting and they're chasing each other around. I've seen it with blue whales too, but fins I think are definitely like underrated.
Yeah, these are definitely young animals
because they don't fluke.
The blue,
yeah, no, it's literally because you don't get
and because they're second, and because they're second to their freaking blues. Like,
yeah,
I think people have a bucket list of seeing a blue whale, and I just think the fin whales get overshadowed. But
and realistically, fin whales are probably pretty close.
Prettier.
No, but pretty close to the same size.
Yeah.
Like we all think of blue whales just as the biggest, but it's like we're not ever seeing maxed out blue whales,
100-foot blue whales,
even in our hemisphere, anyways. And also, like realistically, some of the fin whales we see are probably just as big, if not bigger.
Yeah. I don't know. Some of those blue whales we saw this morning were
that one that was
the dark one is huge.
Yeah, that was a big
we saw that whale during that first day, that Tuesday 2 weeks ago. We saw that dark blue whale too, because we were like, is that another fin whale?
Yeah.
And then it kept like, we saw how big it was, and we were like, oh no, that's a blue whale. That thing is massive.
Hey, keep an eye out for flu, man. It could show up at any time.
No blaze, but definitely dark.
Are those knuckles? Like, are they called knuckles on the blue? You know what I mean? Like those. Like,
after the dorsal fin.
Is it still knuckles? I guess.
Yeah.
Anyways, the dark one those were like thick, like bulges, like you could see they were really defined.
Yeah.
But it didn't look like skinny.
No. So
that was cool.
Yeah, that was my other top 10 day, was having courting fin whales that were friendly with the boat. I've had close passes with fin whales before that I would call curious, but this was like 15 solid minutes of like being like interested in the boat.
Somebody's got to tell Kate to hire a drone pilot, because that would be pretty cool to see from the drone.
Yeah, it's just like, I think we were all just like so dumbstruck that I'm not even sure if you had a drone pilot, if it would have happened. Because we were just like, oh my God, this is so cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then, yesterday, right? Later, that was yesterday with the killer whales.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah, we got there looking for the blue whales. And we had heard a report in the morning from the Rachel Carson that there were killer whales, and like a couple boats out of Monterey had been looking for like at least an hour and a half and had not found them. So we were like, whatever. We'll just go look at the blue whales.
Who found them?
I
Mike
think
found them.
the Clipper did, but if the Clipper wasn't there, I think we would have seen them anyway because
they were coming right at us.
Yeah, they were coming right for us. So yeah, we saw that peck slapping humpback. That was super cool. It came really close to the boat a few times. The people got to see its eye as it was rolling
you took
around.
a freaking selfie with it, didn't you?
Yep. And it was like doing the backstroke like towards the boat a couple times, which was really cool. And and then the blue whale popped up, and from our perspective on the High Spirits, we were like a little bit further away from the killer whales than Slater was. It was like we were watching the blue whale, we could see the killer whales in the background, and then like a humpback whale was between them, and then the fin whale popped up in front of us. So you almost could have got it all in one shot.
Wow!
4 species in one shot. It was super cool.
I've definitely had blues, fin whales, and humpbacks together.
Yeah.
I had the trip with you.
Yeah.
But not with killer whales coming through.
Well, that big blue whale day, there were humpbacks around too. So we had all 3 there. Just everybody was like, another humpback. Like, we don't care.
Oh, I know. And on our way in from that, there was humpbacks all over too. It's so funny. It's so funny just passing whales right now.
Yeah.
We can't get too
we're spoiled right now.
Yeah, because it could change real quickly.
Yep.
June's coming up.
And that was a lot of killer whales in that group. It was like at least 10. There's 2 big males, a couple adult females, and some juveniles, and I think one fairly small, like a calf.
It was Emma, right?
Emma
plus a couple other ones.
Yeah, like the 222s and 175A, which is not a very commonly sighted whale. It's more common up north.
Yeah.
Oh, I think he's like a T number as well.
I think so. Yeah. So they were doing their typical zigzagging traveling thing, so that part was a little tough, but we did get a couple nice looks at them, and our people were stoked.
Wonder if they're still looking for grays. I mean, they must be, but
I don't know.
There's probably not a lot of them.
I don't know. Well, Slater had an elephant seal right by his boat, and we thought, oh man, this was gonna be it.
So let me tell him about the elephant seal real quick. So funny. So I was like, I got a look at these killer whales, and I said, I'm going in, like, because it was like one more turn out to the west. It was just gonna I was like, it was just so getting windier. Like it was just starting to get there, but it was like every time we turned back out, it was windier. So I was like, I'm gonna get one more. I got up and I was parallel with you and Kate, and we got looks. And so I said bye. And then as I'm leaving, I saw elephant seal head pop up, and I was like, so I pulled back and stopped to look at the elephant seal. And then an albatross landed like a foot from this elephant seal, and the elephant seal kind of sank out, and then it came back up, and I was like, oh, this albatross is like, you're gonna die, and then I'm gonna eat you. So I was like, and so Kate was gonna leave too, and then so I was like, okay, I'm gonna. She's like, I was like, I'm gonna stay, and then I start I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 minutes goes by, and I was like, okay, I'm impatient, I'm gonna leave. Like they're not gonna eat this thing, they would have eaten it. And Kate goes, no, give it 2 more minutes, and then they popped up. They popped up west. Yeah, and then we both said bye, and we both went in. Because it was just like. And they ended up, I don't know if anyone ever actually really got any, I think we got that one really good look, and you guys might've got 2.
We got 2 decent looks, and then we were like, that's it. And it sounds like they tried to hang on to him for another hour and a half or something. I heard him kind of chatting
because
on the
film
radio.
Crew, right?
Yeah. And I was like, well, even I think Sanctuary was trying to get out there for their 11:30
they did see them.
Yeah. So somebody did try and hang on to him for a while, but we were like, it ain't gonna be us. We gotta go.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyways, Adam, you saw basking sharks. What else have you seen?
Well, it's been a pretty turbulent spring, to say the least. And the past couple weeks, it's been super chunky and super windy. Like the Western Channel has just been blowing at 40 knots for literally I don't know, a couple weeks. And when that fills into our portion, it's just not fun. So we've only really been able to do a 5-mile loop recently. We've had a couple of good gaps. That one, we had a kids charter actually that found the first basking shark, and it was in the morning. And it was actually super cool to show the kids a basking shark. That's they're super rare everywhere along the California coast. But it was funny, like one of the other boats that just kind of does like a 2-mile loop outside the harbor actually found it. And the last time they called us on animals, they called us on pilot whales that turned out to be minke whales. So the guy was like, I'm pretty sure I got a basking shark here. And I was like, yeah, right. Okay. Like this guy knows what he's talking about. But it was totally a basking shark, and it was super cool to show these kids. We had a kids charter, super cool to show them a shark that big, and it came right by the boat. So they were stoked. And then we had another trip, and I was like, let's go find this thing again. It was only a couple miles outside the harbor. And so I texted Havala, and she's like crazy about basking sharks. She's always wanted to see one. So I texted her. I was like, come out. You have to come out on this trip. Like, I have a good feeling we're going to find this thing again. Because it was just so close. And then we texted my captain Dave. He was off too. We're like, dude, there's a basking shark. Come get it. And he was like, I don't know. Like, you're not going to find it again. And I was like, no, I got a good feeling we're going to find it again. And so on the second trip, Devin and I went out, and I saw it. It was the weirdest thing ever. I saw it in the binos, and then I saw another one with it. And I was like, oh my God, there's two. And nobody believed me. But then they like literally ran into each other, and one of them like threw its tail up in the air. Like, it was super interesting. And then I was like, oh my God, it's a basking shark. There's two of them. And then one of them came right towards the boat. The other one kind of disappeared for a minute. And it did the same thing. It like threw its tail in the air. It was like,
they do breach.
They breach. Yeah. But it was just
really?
Like,
people have photos of that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's a video. There's a really cool video off of
Ireland
of one breaching. It was like in a group of like 15 basking sharks, and one of them breaches. Super cool.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it was like typical basking shark water. Like, every time I've seen them just in that dirty, ugly water. And I've only seen them once before, so it was pretty cool to get the drone over them. That was a new experience for me. And as I was flying over the two, a third popped up, and the third one was like huge. It was like way bigger than the other two. So that was super, super cool.
So the one that Slater saw has like a white mark on one of its flippers. Did any of you?
I didn't. It didn't look. I think ours were a little bit bigger.
More noticeable would have been on the tail.
Yeah.
Was there a white mark? I'll have to
the
look at
whole
the
top of the fin is like definitely looks like a line came across it.
Yeah, like chase.
Yeah,
like
none of ours had one of them had a mark on the tip of its nose, like a white mark on the tip of its nose, but that's it. I think they were different sharks, which is super cool.
Ours came all the way around the top from Ireland, so it's no big deal.
But it's cool.
That was me wonder, between Santa Barbara and Monterey, there's probably some as well, but it's just like the weather's been so rough. No one's really been down there.
Yeah, and we had a couple reports earlier this year of like on the backside of Santa Cruz. I think we had one there, and then we had one at Anacapa.
They seem to get seen off
right there.
Your zone more often.
I don't know why. Yeah, the recent years. I mean, we had in 2019 was the last time we saw them before this year, and there was again probably a half dozen sightings of them, and they were always sighted in that ugly water. So that's just what they're feeding on. They're feeding on zooplankton in there. So that was super cool, super rare to see them. And the next day, Dave finally motivated. He's like, well, I guess you saw 3 in the afternoon, so we'll go out again. So he went out on his own boat, and we missed it by just 2 minutes, but right in the exact same area, a leatherback sea turtle popped up. So Dave got looks at that. We just missed it by a minute or two, but just back-to-back days, like 2 cold water rare species for us. And Dave's been in the Santa Barbara channel for 20 years, and he's only seen, that was his second leatherback sea turtle ever. So
I feel like maybe somebody should take a drive down to Big Sur tomorrow.
Yeah, honestly, I got some weird stuff going on.
I'm not off.
I know.
You this way.
So that was super cool. We've had humpbacks around as well, and common dolphins, and it's really been hit or miss. Like, I think they're out on their first island trip right now, and they have humpbacks and a bunch of commons, which is super cool. We finally got a weather gap. But even before that, when we were running our coastal trips, like, we had a couple of days where there was probably a dozen humpback whales within a mile of the harbor. but it's been very hit or miss. Like they're moving around a lot. They've been going up the coast to Gaviota. They've been congregating there. Like there was a report of like 100 up off of Point Conception. There for a day or two, they moved in and there was a dozen right in front of our harbor, and then they disappeared again. So they're really transient this year. I don't know what the deal is. Like last year, we had them for 8 months in the exact same spot, like dozens of them for 8 months straight without missing a day.
I mean,
and
I
this
feel like
year,
they
they're
move
just
around
all over the
here.
map.
They're
do for
moving
sure.
around a lot here too. Like,
Yeah.
And different whales are like coming and going too. I
Yeah,
think.
that's very true too. So it's just, I'm excited to see what the year brings. It seems kind of like an interesting year, at least here. You know, it definitely seems a little bit different, but and again, we've been seeing a lot of fowler ups too. So I'm hoping we get some blue whales. Blue whales have been really hit or miss for us the last couple of years, but I'm excited to see what the season has in store.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, I don't really like to make projections in April and May for what the summer's going to look like, because like June is always like the anomaly, and then you start to second guess yourself, and then
but you never know.
Like,
I watched June be the best month we've ever had in our entire lives.
I mean, if it does, I will I don't know, I'll take it back, I guess. But
no, but it could be like I'm telling you, Caitlin, last year we did not have this many humpbacks. We kind of got lucky that the killer whales hung around for like a week. And really like the saviors of the start of the season last year were like Fluke Skywalker or like random calves that were around, mom and calf pairs that were around, which we're starting to see. We've seen 2 different ones the last couple days. And then all the
one
juveniles.
has a really cool set of markings on the tail.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh, the one that
I saw posted.
We saw it here in Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
And it was throwing its tail around. I have a full Fluke ID. I didn't take it, but one of the crew members did.
It's like it's even got white on the top of the tail, and we thought maybe it was an injury, but it's just pigment.
No, it's pigment for sure.
So super cool.
Super cool. Yeah.
And it was really friendly with the boat. It breached like 10 feet off the side of the boat. I was like, oh, hi.
That's awesome. Yeah, it was super active for us too.
So speaking of not having very many killer whales this year, that sort of like leads into like what we're going to talk about. But I actually did have kind of a random thought about, you know, how like the humpback whales feeding with the sea lions in Monterey is like something that's pretty unique to just Monterey Bay. It doesn't really happen consistently anywhere else. Well, like the last 2 weeks, we've had a lot of young whales that actually have summer sightings in BC. So if they're getting this experience with the California sea lions, would they be inclined to feed with big groups of stellar sea lions? Like, I don't know. Like, is that going to start happening other places because these whales are like seeing that their sea lions do it?
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know if any photos ever come out or video of humpbacks feeding with stellar sea lions in big rafts like that. Have you seen any?
I guess that'd be a question for Sarah and Jeff, or I mean, Adam, did you ever see big groups of stellars like feed together?
No, pretty much every time I saw stellars, they were hauled out. Like I never really saw big groups of them at all. It might have changed in the past couple of years. And I would never really see humpbacks with sea lions. They were always by themselves. So it's interesting. It's an interesting connection there.
Yeah. I don't know. That was just a thought I had.
But and maybe like I wonder if like further up in like Alaska or something, do they get that with like the
that's what I was thinking.
Maybe the herring runs, you know, and the herring spawning season. I know a lot of stellars.
But that's like short
come to
term,
and it's before the humpbacks even get there, I think.
Yeah, that's true. It's typically like right now, and the humpbacks are barely there.
Yeah, because all that big tea party that was going on up near the Columbia River is where all the herring are spawning.
Yeah,
and that's where the stellars are, and that's where
then the killer whales eating the stellars.
I think I heard some reports about it happening in Alaska already within the last week or so, also, and the humpbacks are not really all the way there yet. So I started to sort of segue into our topic, but then I had my random thought about the sea lions and the humpbacks. But we haven't really seen a whole lot of killer whales this spring, and we also haven't really seen a whole lot of gray whales this spring. The northbound migration's been pretty slim. And in a previous episode, I forget which number it wasn't that many ago, we talked about the mid-season Baja report and how it was pretty grim coming out of San Ignacio and Magdalena Bay, which is a pretty good indicator that all the lagoons are not doing as well as they typically do. So the final report for the season is out now. So I wanted to talk about that because I think that's a big reason why our killer whale season was so slow this year. So this is from Laguna San Ignacio Ecosystem Science Program. They do this every year in Laguna San Ignacio and Bahia Magdalena. And sort of just the highlights for them. The abundance of single gray whales in both lagoons were greater than recent years, but the number of female calf pairs were lower than a typical year. They did some surveys to account for how long individual whales were in the bay and in the lagoons, and they were there less time than a typical season. And they did have more deaths of whales in the lagoons than they do on a typical year. They were able to do some drone photogrammetry, and they got a lot of body condition measurements done. And the good news is the whales that did come down and have calves look good, look like they're healthy. There's just less calves. So, and then they had some cool long-term sighting animals. We talked about one of them in a previous episode, but there's two other whales that they have a long sighting history for that they're able to see. And they also documented 6 different individuals between the two locations from the western North Pacific population of gray whales.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So even though feeding seems to be tough for the gray whales in their feeding range, there were whales coming from Russia all the way to Mexico this year, which was really cool. So the page that's a 31-page report. That's kind of just like the highlights. And then I just wanted to kind of go through and talk about a few of the more detailed notes. So if you look at their survey on page 6 of week by week, how many whales they're seeing in the lagoons, where we left off was February in San Ignacio. They had only seen 4 mom calf pairs. And so they were starting to get pretty nervous by February that they're oh no, there's not going to be very many. The peak was March 10th. They had 18 mom calf pairs and 40 single adults. So that was 58 total whales. But previously in the season, all through February, they had more than 100 single adult whales in the bay each survey. They just had, 6 or 7 or 4 mom calf pairs.
Yeah.
So definitely a lot less than a typical year, but they did get up to at least 18 pairs in San Ignacio. They also said that the whales stayed about 2 weeks less than they typically do in San Ignacio. And so by March, the sightings were really, really slow in the lagoon, which is why I think the killer whale season was so slow too, right? If they're not in Baja in March, they're already on their way up. So
I wonder if that has we've had a decent amount of killer whale sightings this spring, not us personally, but there's been a lot cited in the channel. I think there's been about a half dozen sightings. I wonder if they're just realizing the gray whales aren't that plentiful. Maybe they're coming down here for sea lions, or I don't know.
Yeah, it might be, or they're going down there to look for gray whales. I don't know.
There's been a couple sightings of the orcas when they're here hunting dolphins. So I don't know. Yeah.
And then the Magdalena Bay complex is 3 sites that they survey, and their highest mom calf pair sightings was 2.
Dang, so that means when I went down there and saw 1 cow calf pair,
you saw the one of 2.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they said
actually I didn't see it. The other boat saw it. We saw adults.
Wait, didn't you go in March?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When was that?
So
March, right?
0 in March. Or 1 in.
Well, there's
3 different sites.
Three sites.
Yeah.
So in Bahia Almejas, there was 1 mom calf pair on March 2nd. In Bahia Magdalena, there was 1 mom calf pair on February 8th. And then in Canal de Santo Domingo, there was 1 on the 21st of January and 2 on the 7th of March. But those are their survey days. So things happen in between all those days too.
Yeah.
But those are their survey days.
And I think the north part is where they have more mom and calves, because the south part, they don't even allow you to go. Like, you can't pet gray whales down in the south part of Magdalena Bay. It's like a 50-yard or 50 feet rule or something like that, 50-yard rule. So yeah, it's just kind of, I mean, that's insane to have. How many? 2?
2. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And they had like the January and February surveys had quite a few single adults, but like in the Canal de Santo Domingo on the 3rd of March, they saw no whales there at all. Period. 0. So, and even on in Mag Bay on the 1st of March, they only saw 9 single adult whales.
See, but this is just their surveys. And then when you go to the actual photo identification data from others that weren't just on those survey days, it says 41 cow-calf pairs.
Where are you looking at that at?
For the whole season.
Table 4. Yeah.
For the whole season.
That's what I'm saying. I think these numbers really throw people off. Like, 1, oh my God, there's 1 cow-calf pair. But like, okay, that's on their sightings. That's on the day they're going out to look, and things change. And like, so to actually have photo ID'd 41 different pairs, like, obviously that's still not a lot, but that's
across all 4 sites during all the surveys. That's where they get that number.
Yeah. So it's kind of like multiplying it by 3 and still having none.
Well, but they still photo ID match the individuals, so they still verify.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Well, okay, what was it in 2000? Let's say 18, before this all happened.
Oh, you can definitely see the trend here. I mean, in 2014, 2015, 275, like it clearly is, a fifth of what it was.
Where do you see the 2014 one?
It's just in the same.
Oh, I see the graph right there. Figure 2. Okay.
Yeah. But I think because every year I hear like, oh my God, they only saw like 5 cow-calf pairs. And also at the same time, like these San Ignacio and Bahia Magdalena are the smallest of the lagoons. From what I've heard and from what I know and from what people have told me, like Charlie's like, dude, like these, like whatever, they have 500 whales at an individual time. Like Hierro Negro has thousands at least, and like the estimate there is like 1,100 at a single time, and that's without the whales coming in and going. And when I was there, I saw at least 30 calves. So I do think the situation is definitely dire, but I always hear people reporting like, oh my gosh, they only saw 5 pairs this entire year. And I think when you actually look at the graphs and stuff, it's like 41.
Oh no, okay. Don't get it twisted on what
I've never heard an entire year like that, but
yeah, I don't want people to get it twisted on what I'm saying. This is a report from Magdalena Bay and Laguna San Ignacio. If you look at the proportions of what a normal year is versus what they've seen, you can extrapolate that across any lagoon. Some lagoons normally have way more whales. For
sure.
And so proportionately, they also have less whales, but there's still thousands of whales. There are still over 100 calves that were born this year, easily. Maybe 200 or 300 easily. But Absolutely. On a normal year, there are over 1,000 born, like, yeah. So there's not like no whales, but there's a lot less whales than
I definitely see the downward trend for sure.
Like, look at the south, like, okay, how about just the gray whale census in Point Vicente? I mean, 28 calves southbound and 24 northbound.
That's all they saw.
Yeah, see, that's the weird thing to me is that
that's crazy.
And same thing in Santa Barbara. Like this year, I think last year we had a couple good days of like multiple cow-calf pairs. This year we had 1, and we had 4 pairs, and that was it. After that, we've seen, I think 2. I think we've seen 6 total this entire year. And so at least in Santa Barbara, they theorize that there's been a lot of gray whales taking the backside of the islands route. I don't know why they would necessarily do that. Maybe they're not as afraid of, killer whales in this part of the coast. So they're able to go offshore a little bit, but there's been a lot of reports of whales, and there's been a lot of reports of whales feeding at the islands as well. And this year we've seen personally a lot of whales feeding like mid-channel. Just randomly we'll see whales popping up that are traveling with mouthfuls of sediment.
And are you saying it's calves or adults?
Adults and calves.
Because like I think
moms, but
north, I think, especially northbound, I think it's always been, and
They
southbound,
get-
the
Snack
adults
your
have
way up.
always gone further offshore, but like the cat, the thing is I don't believe that mom and calves are taking the offshore route. I just don't.
I
don't think
wonder
they're gonna
if
switch
they've
it.
transitioned though.
Well, I think so. Here's the other thing
But
that
in,
I
like, the
think is
last year?
happening. The moms that are birthing the last 2 or 3 seasons, their body condition has been the best out of any of the whales in the lagoons. So I think those are the experienced and healthy moms. And so they're either very good at being sneaky and like know when to pass certain zones, and like
Or
they're
they
going to have
trust.
good calving success and get calves to weaning age. So like the calves that are being born are going to be with really good parents. So those may be the whales that on a normal year you never see anyway, because they know how to get up the coast really in stealth
True.
mode.
I don't know. It is really interesting. I mean, and I to be honest, I haven't seen, just in general, not just cow calves, but the whole population. I think I've seen one skinny whale this entire year, where in the past couple of years it's been pretty scary.
Yeah, the report this year says that, I mean, their body condition is still not great, but it's better than it has been.
I think it's, yeah, from what I've seen, and I can only speak to what whales I've seen, they look a lot better. But
So and then I think it's kind of cool that they did this resident time report. I don't remember this in last year's report, but maybe I just breezed by it. But the amount of days that the whales spend in the lagoon. So for mom and calf pairs, like on a good year, like in 2014, they were spending 38 to 89 days in the lagoon. That's like more than 6 weeks.
Wow.
And then the single adults were spending 8 to 34 days in the lagoons that same year. Then you look at like this year, and the moms are spending 32 to 73 days in the lagoon.
pretty,
So a lot less time. And even before that, in 2020, when it was really, really bad, they were spending 24 to 62 days.
yeah,
They're not spending very much time at all in the lagoon before trying to get north for the food. So
I guess the gray whale census, like I was just like snooping through it, and it looks like a comment says that it hasn't been this low since the UME of 1999 and 2000.
Yep.
So it's happened before. I mean,
yeah, that's what this report's saying too.
yeah.
So so it's interesting. They made a comment about that actually, Slater, towards the end of this document. They said this is similar to the 99-2000 event. And then they said that's when people started to wonder if like the gray whale population is like reaching carrying capacity and like leveling off.
Yeah.
And then they saw it continue to grow until this event. So now they're trying to kind of change their
carrying capacity.
It's funny though, because that term got brought up again, which it's been, I feel like, since I've known about gray whales. So like 10 years or so, I feel like we've always heard they're at their carrying capacity. But it's like,
yeah.
Well, it's like, John Calambakidis says the same thing about blue whales. It's like, we just don't know. Are they really at their carrying capacity here in the Eastern Pacific? Is their food sources just not enough to sustain a higher population? Or are more whales dying to entanglement and ship strike than we actually think?
When we had him on the podcast, it seemed like he was more leaning towards like
the ship
we're
strike
losing
issue.
enough to ship strike that we're not growing as a population.
Yeah, and they grow so slow.
Yeah.
And it's so underreported. So, I mean, and especially with, gray whales, like I wouldn't be surprised if that's also the case. Just because they're so coastal in their migration and they constantly run into boats and people and gear. And
it's surprising though that they don't run into more gear, especially since they are a bottom feeder and they're a very coastal animal. Like most of the entanglements they get reported are humpbacks. I don't know if it's because their flippers are not easy to catch stuff or what.
We've had probably a half dozen gray whale entanglements this year.
Like I think about that big year where there was like over 70 reported and like 50 plus were humpbacks and 11 were gray whales. And then there were a few undetermined.
I think that was like 14 or 15.
2015. Yeah.
Because that was when
that summer
I
was
was
horrible.
working down south, and we had 1 or 2 gray whales, and I remember flying the drone for the disentanglement teams, and so maybe that was the same year.
Yeah, I think it was. So
I was flying the drone and I watched a gray whale run into a lobster trap, like the line, and I was watching it, and it hit its pec fin on the line, and then immediately threw its tail, and like it was like on its tail for a second and came off, and like it didn't get stuck, but like you could see how easily, if it just kicked hard enough and like pulled the line over, probably entangle themselves pretty easily.
Yeah.
How do they run into it? It's so weird. I mean, if the visibility is so poor.
Yeah, I think that they just really can't see it that well. Or, if you're kind of on autopilot and you're like, oh, it's kelp, you just swim by it, and then you like get stuck and you're like, that's not kelp. Oh my God. And then you start freaking out.
And then they spin and roll and kick, and then boom, it's done.
Yeah.
Spin and roll and kick.
So you can read all the details of this report if you want. I'll put it on our Facebook page, but there was 2 kind of long-term sighting things that I thought were cool. There's this female gray whale named Gray Blaze, and she was first photographed.
1979.
No, this one's 1981, and she's been photographed 8 times, including twice with a calf in the last 34 years. So they think she's 40 to 42 years old. And then they have a male with an open wound, kind of like Scarback, but like way smaller.
I see that.
Yeah, and he was first photographed in 1979, and he's been photographed 8 times over the past 43 years and presumed to be male because it's never been seen with a calf.
Yeah.
Have you seen Scarback, Caitlin?
Yeah.
Oh, did you see it in Oregon? Okay.
Yeah.
You didn't see it in Newport?
Oh, no.
I remember when I saw that whale, and I thought I was like literally like famous. I thought that was so cool.
Actually, that's the first time you and I ever spoke ever.
Oh, did you message me on Facebook about it?
I asked you to send Jim Sumich the video.
Did I?
She looked pregnant. I think you did.
I remember learning about it.
$250 a second.
No, this was way before then.
This is back in the grind.
Yeah.
No, are you kidding me, dude? I was ready to be on the front page of Yahoo for Google. For that Scarback. I probably was, honestly. Every single thing that was seen in Newport was like, oh my God.
That's how you're
verifying false killer whales. They're hybrid bottlenose dolphin killer whales.
Oh my God.
And then all of a sudden they get seen like the next 3 years, and it's like, no, they're just false killer whales. Like it was like everything that was happening around that time was super rare. Then we had pilot whales, or short fin pilot whales, and we had, just.
Well, that actually is pretty rare.
Yeah, but all of them are at the time. Everything was. Humpbacks were rare at the time.
Yeah.
Humpbacks were seen maybe once, and like, or maybe it was like 1 to 7 times a year before 2014. Then all of a sudden it was just like, boom, humpbacks are like a thing in Newport.
Well, speaking of rare sightings, so this is something that was rare for San Ignacio, and I don't know if we mentioned it during another episode, but they had killer whales come in the lagoon. So there's never really been any reports of the killer whales entering the lagoons where the gray whales are, but obviously they can figure out how to get in there. So on January 23rd of 2022, there was a whale watch group out there, and they saw a group of 6 killer whales in the lower portion of Laguna San Ignacio, which is the deepest part where the entrance is to the ocean. And they encountered these whales in front of Isla Abaroa, and they were chasing bottlenose dolphins. So even though there's all kinds of little fresh, tender gray whale calves in there, well, not many, because in January they didn't have very many reported, but they're eating bottlenose dolphins.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a report of they thought a gray whale calf as well?
No, I think this is the report was like mixed, like telephone, where it made it up here. They thought it was a gray whale, but down south it was a bottle. Like when I talked to the guy even off Cabo, they knew it was a bottlenose.
Yeah. I think they just saw like a gray chunk of meat and were like, oh my God, they got a gray whale, but it was the bottlenose.
Gotcha.
So the research group from that made this report, they were able to get out there, and they stayed with the killer whales for 2 hours, and they were able to get all individuals photo ID shots. They're still working on the IDs, but they were able to get them all documented.
Whoa. Oh, you can see they have photo. Look at it. Figure 15 right there. They show the killer whale with the bottlenose. Look how close they are to it too.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
I know.
2 bottlenose dolphins carcasses were later discovered on the northern shore of the lagoon.
Yeah, so cool.
Oh, look at the killer whale's mouth coming out behind the bottlenose.
Yeah.
Holy chicken wagon, dude. Zoom into that.
I tried to, and then the report.
Oh my God,
froze.
it could bite on his the bottom of his dorsal fin. Oh my God, could you imagine?
Yeah, they have a video of it too on Vimeo if you want to watch the video.
It's here.
It's in the report. You see the
I
link
see it.
at the bottom.
The link.
Yeah,
I'm clicking it.
I'm clicking it.
Holy guacamole.
Yeah, did you not see that, dude? Those photos are gnarly.
Yeah, super cool. A second sighting of killer whales was in the lagoon on January 31st, but there was not enough good photos taken by anybody to match them to the group from the 23rd. And there's a lot less information about that report. But yeah, 2 dead bottlenose carcasses, and they definitely had wounds from killer whales on them. So super cool. There's also a more detailed version of the report about the entanglement that we did talk about already before.
I think Baja might be the new hot ticket in the springtime and stuff.
Yeah, dude, we have to go next year.
Yeah, I really want to see.
down?
I'm gonna watch this video later because this looks super cool.
Super cool. It's like 2 feet off the Ponga.
Of course it is. Baja.
Yeah.
The animals are just like in your face there. They're like, hey, hi, hello, I'm here.
What a podcast.
So
What a podcast.
yeah, so still pretty grim coming out of San Ignacio, but better than it has been.
I guess we'll see what the future holds.
It'll be
there's
fine.
not much. I don't know. We'll see.
Gray whales are just, what? They're pretty hardy.
They are really
crusty
hardy.
little whales. I just, I think they're going to be all right.
They're definitely crusty.
But I do think it's a glimpse into our future for some species. If our oceans continue to warm,
yeah,
there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers. And I think that gray whales, it's going to be real tough.
I thought this year was going to be my year. I had my own boat to go out, look for killer whales. It's been nonstop bad weather. My boat broke down the first half of April. Nonstop bad weather. Nonstop bad weather. And then
the season's just getting started.
Yeah.
No, but he wanted killer whale season in his boat,
Yeah, but whatever.
I had it last year.
You guys don't even like killer whales.
No.
Yeah, I don't really.
You have to.
Caitlin doesn't.
It's not that we don't like them. It's that.
No, I think Caitlin doesn't like them.
No, they did it exactly yesterday. They get you all excited.
I know.
They give you one pass and they disappear, and you're like, great. You just broke half of our customer or whatever
hearts. Yeah.
Their hearts. And it's like, they're like, but what? You're not gonna keep following them? It's like, no, they don't love us.
What are you supposed to do?
It's not that they don't love us. It's just that they're hungry and they move fast and they're looking for food.
Yeah. Well, and they're like designed to handle the sea conditions, whereas like we are not.
We are not. Yeah.
And they're also designed to eat mammals, and people don't understand that you have to take the good to get, or you take the bad to get the good. So you have to watch things die if you actually want to get good looks at killer whales.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's funny because people are like, yeah, but I want to see them celebrate. I'm like, yeah, well, you have to sacrifice.
You have to watch them kill something first. They don't celebrate for nothing.
They don't hardly just, they don't just breach for, willy nilly. Not very, I mean, they do, but not very often.
Yeah.
Unless it's a social event, that's the only time.
Which
most likely they probably killed something
because
before
they ate
that.
something.
And you just happen to get there late when they already killed it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So
well, you guys made it this far. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Really appreciate you guys sticking with us. I've noticed a lot of downloads on our recent podcast. So like almost 1,000 views on, which is like crazy that 1,000 people listen to us talk about spinner dolphins.
And that's just on one platform, isn't it?
No, we kind of figured it out. It's like
cool.
over across it all. So that's amazing.
Still,
Thank you guys so
awesome.
much.
So yeah, I think our secret whale of the week shouldn't be a whale. It should be phalarope.
Ooh, it's a hard one to spell. Don't spell it with an F.
Let's name a whale phalarope. It has to have a bird on. It has to have a bird on its fluke.
There is a humpback whale named Loon on the East Coast, and it definitely has a mark that looks like a loon.
That's pretty cool.
So, phalarope. That's the secret whale of the week.
Phalarope. Catch you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.